Welcome to the last match of the evening. Spawning on Frozen Temple to the bottom right in purple. Playing Zerg for MyRisk in Germany is Miezekotze. And to the top left in red, playing Protoss for O Gaming TV and France, it's Midastouch. Who also wants to go into an early Nexus, maybe even a Nexus first build, which would be pretty daring, especially on that map. But probably just going to throw down a gateway here afterwards. Well, that's one idea. The probe is coming. No! It seems, yeah, she really wants to go into Nexus first. Daring move. Quite interestingly done here. So if Miezekotze actually had cheesed, which is not very likely from her, she could have actually just won the game straight up, maybe, right from that point. So, but yeah, I mean, how often is your opponent actually daring enough to do that? So, checking with the probe, sees the hatchery first, and now Midas will just feel safe and secure, knowing that she will actually get through with this Nexus over here. Yeah, just playing the meta, just knowing that most Zergs will most likely go into hatch first anyways, so yeah, why not try it and get through with it. So usual hatch gas pool built by Miezekotze, bread and butter built by Zerg, nothing all too spectacular here. Drone just chasing away that probe, while in the meantime the Nexus is building, so the economical advantage that Miezekotze could have actually gotten by an early hatchery is almost completely denied. The most important part for her is to scout this as soon as possible, realizing that her opponent went into her into a second base early on, so she really wants to make up for it by taking a third base, because that's then the good thing you can do as a Zerg. You can just easily take a third of your own, since there's just not even enough resources left in order to attack you early on. I mean, you have to decide as a player, do you want to go into early economy or do you want to go into early aggression? You can't really do both early on. So if you realize that your opponent is going for a heavily economical build, you just transition into one yourself. Or if you actually manage to get out a lot of units, you might want to ramp up the aggression. It's up to you. But of course, ramping up the aggression can always be a risky part, especially as Zerg, because you usually have to commit a lot of resources into aggression. And it might work out and kill the opponent straight away, or at least cripple them so good that you will just easily win from there on. But if it doesn't work out and your opponent just manages to somehow hold what you were trying to do, well, then you might just fall back completely and you will just have lost all of your advantage. But yeah, this is what I was talking about. If you just happen to have a few early links out, unfortunately these links will not be able to probably get this out here. Too bad a little bit for Miezekotze. If she'd just taken it out immediately and straight away, she might have even managed to deal more damage, but she's already gotten some drone kills, will already get a full scout, will keep some workers from mining, being annoying like crazy, forcing Midastouch to micro instead of macroing up, so she will just also pile up a lot of resources in the meantime, while Miezekotze can just easily take a third base of her own without being harassed. So already quite a success with the first few 6 links that Miezekotze produced, and yeah, kind of dealt a lot of damage here, just keeping these workers from mining, killing off a few. How many workers were actually lost? Well, only 2. Looked a little bit more, could have probably gotten a few more. And like I said before, if she'd actually cared to take down that pylon even earlier, it might even have dealt way more damage. But maybe not, is also really difficult to tell. You really have to make a quick call, and afterwards you might regret it, but there's just no way to go back from there. Okay, the safety roadhorn is already done. We have a few more units around, but second and natural base are already saturated and mining. We're already getting the third base saturated as well. Miezekotze has probably also just scared her opponent a little bit, but we can see that Midas is true to her style. She's shown in her game so far, just trying to turtle up mostly into the unbeatable Protoss Death Ball army, and then just trying to roll over her opponent. So we'll see if this is going to work out for her or not. Miezekotze has already scouted the early nexus. Very important information that she gathered there. So we'll now actually try to take it down. We'll probably even be able to get it if she just takes out the pylon. Photon overcharge will not be available. Pylon goes down. There's still the mothership core nibbling away at these Zerglings, but it's taking some time. More Lings are actually running in. There's not too many units out for Midas. Midas relying totally on mothership core and pylon defense here. More Lings running in, and this base needs to get cancelled. Now even has to be careful that her valuable units do not get surrounded. Especially the Stalkers doesn't really want to lose those to only Lings. But yeah, the Lings almost get the good surround here, nibbling away from one Stalker. Will probably not get the other one, especially not with Photon Overcharge being charged up. But still, again, a big victory here for Miezekotze, denying that third base. Now even maybe getting the surround on the Stalkers at last, but retreats for now after having saturated the third base of her own. And thus far, everything is working out quite well for Miezekotze. Just has to be careful. In the meantime, we have Midastouch taking up 2 Immortals and the Resonating Glaives upgrade. So with a few more Adepts, the only thing she has right now are only Lings. Resonating Glaives Adepts actually kill those pretty easily, but she's already making the transition into Roaches, so no really big, no real problem against the Adepts then, especially not with the Glial Reconstitution upgrades and a few Ravagers. So yeah, healthy 3-base economy for Miezekotze, even taking a third as Midas is just trying to retake her third. So it seems as if Miezekotze now just wants to lie back a little, maybe get some information here and there, maybe sending out a few Lings to the left-hand side, so once she realizes that her opponent moves out, she might be able to do a run by into her main base. We'll see if she's going to do something like that later on. But in the meantime, we just have Roaches and Ravagers out. Miezekotze obviously just collecting her forces, trying to tech up a little bit, build up a good army composition, and then maybe even doing the big tech switch, maybe into Mutas, or maybe even later on into Broodlords. We'll see. I don't really expect... Well, actually, she studied most of Midas's... she actually studied most of Midas's matches so far, so she might expect her to go into Colossi, because she's always had a Colossi supported armies, so she might want to use these for Corruptors as well, or just want to have it as a backup to do a heavy tech transition. But also a few Mutas, always good to chase down these pesky Warp Prisms. So Midas just flying towards the fourth base, is obviously expecting her opponent to have one by now, especially after how horrible the early game went for her. So finally the third base is up. A Protoss on 3 bases is pretty dangerous. Miezekotze just sees the Warp Prism away, or should see it on the minimap. I mean, there's this glaringly red dot on it. So yeah, she should know about it. Is not keeping units behind, so maybe she didn't realize it. Or no, I think she's just sending these Lings towards the base in order to help defend. Yeah, that's it. So she has actually realized everything that's going on, trying to go for a big attack herself, but realizes that she just doesn't have the power to break it. So she retreats just a little bit, gets a few Adepts actually for free. Nice little donation there by Midastouch. But yeah, I mean, the supply numbers are already telling the story. It's 117 to 47, 53 army supply now. So Midas just desperately tries to get out more units. Is unfortunately supply blocked now, so can't really produce this Immortal over here, and now we have the first 5 Mutas in construction for Miezekotze, or in morphing for Miezekotze. I don't really feel that Miezekotze really wants to commit too much to them. I think she really wants these Mutalisks only in order to drive away Warp Prisms and just have something to fend it off if necessary. So also going into an infestation pit, so Hive Tech is actually not that far away anymore. And then we'll see, since she's already gotten the Spire, I rather doubt she will be going into Ultralisks, and will probably just morph the Spire into Greater Spire, going into the Broodlords later on. So, and Broodlords are just fantastic against this kind of army. I mean, the Stalkers have Blink, yes. Still, Blink Stalkers are actually only really good against Broodlords if there are either not too many Broodlords, or if the Zerg has just lost all of her ground army, so that there's nothing left to protect the Broodlords. But protected Broodlords, killing them off with only Blink Stalkers, is very, very difficult and usually not a good trade. so not really something you want to do. Dark Shrine, always coming up. That's just something a Protoss should always get around the 10-minute mark, at least if it wasn't part of the early build anyways. So, Miezekotze really has to think. I mean, her army is not really that valuable anymore. It's the 10-minute mark, and she hasn't really managed to do that much damage. We'll probably be able to take down that force since it's not really that high on health. So if she just commits, walks in, kills it off, and then retreats, it's okay. But yeah, the roach-based army will lose efficiency and will lose value over time. So Miezekotze actually really has to make sure to trade off a few units here and there, denying that fourth base. Otherwise, she might lose a critical army engagement, where Midas then just has enough army units left in order to take out the complete force, and then it doesn't matter if Miezekotze has been ahead for so long if she just can't stop the Protoss army. Ooh, actually a big blunder there by Midastouch. Luckily for her, Miezekotze not reacting, taking down these two Archons for free there. But yeah, is now moving towards it, morphing a few more banelings. Actually, it seems as if she just wants to get in. In the meantime, we have the Mutas. Oh my god, just totally overlooked them. 25 worker kills with this little Muta force over here, while the main engagement actually was happening. So very well done there by Miezekotze, getting these Mutas in while doing the main engagement, and now just trying to chase the army. Like I said, this should be like the engagement she really wants to do. Again, cancelling the fourth base over here. So Midas now has to take the fourth over at that location, while Miezekotze actually has already set up her fifth, although she has not really been using it. So now again, we have the thing where Miezekotze actually wants to trade off army in order to make room for the more important units. 9 Corruptors are already being in the making. Maybe it doesn't even need to be done, but it seems as if Miezekotze might just barely lose this fight, not without trading off trading off a lot of units. Yeah, Midas just jumps in, kills off the remainders of the army, and still has a lot of Blink Stalkers left. And now might be just... No, there isn't. Okay, we have 12 Corruptors, we still have 35 Roaches on the way. That sometimes that just might open the timing window, where the Zerg actually just loses all of her army, and then you just don't have enough power to reinforce it right away. The Protoss army might even be too close to your own army. DT is probably going to tear through this base before it can actually be saved. And is there detection? There actually is no detection, or at least it's too late. So wow, nice pickup there. A nice pickup there by Midastouch, bringing them both down to 2 bases. Okay, another harassment force there by Miezekotze, but it will get shut down pretty hard. So that kind of didn't work out, but in the meantime we have the Brute Lords morphing, and not really much against those Brute Lords. I mean, the Immortals are pretty useless. Archons are only okay if they get into very close proximity in order to deal the area of effect damage against them. And then the Blink Stalkers, they're actually the main force, but it's still pretty risky to blink underneath these Brute Lords when they are then getting surrounded by all these roaches and getting torn down, especially if there are a lot of Brute Lords around. So we'll see. Yeah, actually nice army movement. We're standing right close towards the main ramp, just bringing all of the Brute Lords in position, and that should be kind of a surprise to Midastouch. She doesn't really know that that was going on, has never even seen a single Corruptor, and that should hit her pretty hard. So the Blink Stalkers just retreat immediately, blinking back away from all of these units, but with the full out retreat, Miezekotze even manages to pick off a few units at the end of the army. Those left behind just got taken off. But yeah, I mean, what can she do? We have 8 Brute Lords, ladies and gentlemen. We have another harassment there at the hatchery, so she might even be able to take that down, but there's just nothing to take on the main force, and she will never be able to get close to these Brute Lords. And like I said, even if she now tried to just kind of blink somewhere here and just take those down, it will still be pretty difficult. Miezekotze still has to be careful, doesn't really want to lose all of her army units that are actually protecting the Brute Lords before the anti-air has actually been taken down, and she's standing in a very bad concave here. I mean, the Brute Lords still dealing tons of damage, but we have a lot of Blink Stalkers left. And now, after all of these roaches have gone, it seems as if Midas might finally have the means to take out the Brute Lords. The Mutas coming in from the left, but there's just not enough in order to take down the 200 Stalker force. And there's no upgrades whatsoever for Miezekotze. Miezekotze now losing the rest of her army with most of these Immortals and ground forces intact. And now, unfortunately, she even loses the Greater Spire to the DTs. The only thing she actually has left now are ground units and only low-tech ground units. Nothing that can actually stand up against this. No lurkers. No ultras that wouldn't actually even help against this massive immortal force. No brute lords, just nothing that she can actually do. And she's even lost that base. She's almost down in minerals and resources. Wow, what a turnaround. I think Miezekotze obviously thought that this fight might seal the deal, but the ground forces just were stuck and the concave was just overwhelming. Now finally Midastouch just getting some rest and has the mental capacity in order to just harass a little bit more, moving in with a warp prism, harassing at multiple angles. At least the Dark Templars get fended off with the help of the Spore Crawler and the Static D, and also the warp prism gets taken down before it can finally warp in more units. Midas just again being a little bit indecisive with her pushing possibilities. I mean, like I said before, she had taken down the Brute Lord force. To replace Brute Lords takes time and resources, and she's actually taking down this base over here in the meantime. So she should have known, I think, that her opponent couldn't have really had that much and should have probably just attacked right away to see if she could actually finish her. But right now she's just retreating from the Lynx and Roaches and Ravagers. She has 300 upgrades. Her opponent doesn't have anything. This is a very bad position to fight in. She actually doesn't even shoot the army units mostly, but mostly just the tech buildings, fighting underneath the photon overcharges, fighting against most of these Blink Stalkers with better upgrades and Immortals, and again just losing most of her army. But yeah, I mean, there's not much left she can do. At the same time, we again have more harassment going on at the fourth base. Too many Dark Templars for just one Spore and one Spine to fight off, so the last remaining mining base actually dies. This base is dry, this base is dead. The other two bases that Miezekotze tried to get up are dead as well, and Midas again could just move in, deal the killing blow. But she wants to play it safe. I mean, she has everything up her sleeves. No need to really rush, I feel. But yeah, I mean, there's not much that Miezekotze can actually do. She's just producing whatever is left, has an excessive gas amount left because she just can't produce high-tech units at all. And yeah, now finally the first air units are also moving in. Actually, the Ling Force dealing quite some significant damage, but not without the upgrades. They will just vanish in a matter of seconds. The rest of the units don't really matter. Blink Stalkers alone could probably even take down that force with some micro. GG, and Midas takes the first game. King Sejong Station is the second map of the series. Spawning to the top left-hand corner in purple is our Zerg player, Miezekotze. And to the bottom right, in red, playing Protoss, it's Midastouch, who just managed to claw herself back into a game that looked pretty lost from the beginning, where she was at a heavy disadvantage, but then managed to take one really good engagement and doing some very, very nasty DT harassment at the same time, which brought her back into the game. And she eventually won it. So let's see what she's up against this time. It's loser's pick, so Miezekotze deliberately chose King Sejong Station. So she might have a plan for the map. Or she might expect Midas to do something and have a plan against that. So whether it's going to be an aggressive plan or a defensive plan, we'll see how it's going to work out. Midas already sending out a probe. Will not get spotted by that Overlord, but it's the straight up scouting probe anyways, so she'll see it soon enough. Ooh, interestingly going into an assimilator. Not trying to expand too early on, so we're probably going to see some sort of maybe 2-base all-in build. Using some heavy tech early on. Let's see what Midas is up to. Maybe trying to do something unexpected here. So delaying the base by a little bit. So hatchery will almost be done by Miezekotze once Nexus finally gets dropped down. checks for the third, lets the probe patrol there, so she will see the timing when Miezekotze is trying to throw it down, and actually denied by a little bit. So Miezekotze scouts the late nexus, will probably just want, or wants to try to get a better sight of what's going on in the main base by sending the Overlord in a little more. Ooh, might actually get picked it off now. If Midas really wants to take it down, she could now fire up the Photon Overcharge and probably take out that Overlord. Ooh, Miezekotze realizes it straight away, changes the course of the Overlord, and wants to keep it away from that pylon. Does not want to lose that Overlord, since it's very critical for scouting purposes, as well as that one. So again, the first few 6 slings that might actually wreak some havoc, because there's not a full wall off yet. Might just barely happen before the 6 slings get in, but there's still a lot to wall off. Hasn't walled off that section back here, but might just barely get it done before the 6 slings moves in. Unfortunately, 6 slings a little bit late, but it seems... Oh, and there's actually a gap here that Midastouch didn't really see, but of course she could have always walked through here. Well, still not much to do. There's too many units this time around. Might actually get the sentry here. No, just not. Well, not even barely not. So yeah, not really that much damage dealt. Was worth the try, but it didn't kind of work out. So now finally... Oh no, actually she wanted to do it that way. She wanted to seal it off completely with a pylon here. A lot of players just put this gateway closer to the Vespine Geyser and then close it off with a pylon in the air. So that's also a way to block it off. But I think now she's actually managed to do... Yeah, the full wall off with the Adept in the gap. So Miezekotze just trying. Well, unfortunately for Miezekotze, yeah, these 6 links actually didn't really pay off, and 6 links are a heavy investment, so she couldn't really take a third base off her own. In the meantime, we have the Twilight Council in the making, a few Stalkers already being produced. So but also a few Adepts. Can't really tell where this is going. Might be some sort of glaive Adepts push, but with the Stalkers around, she might also go into Blink. We can't really tell right now because we can't really see which units are being produced more than the others, but she will use this Twilight Council for an upgrade, I feel, not only for a Dark Shrine. So let's see what it's going to be. It's going to be more Adepts. So Adept-based push with a lot of gateways probably, and also just some Stalkers for support, and also maybe for slight anti-air if your opponent just wants to get into mutas early on. But a Hydra then is the weapon of choice. Midas just scouts it straight away, sees what's going on, and it's even going to be early lurkers here. Nice and interesting choice after seeing that her opponent was probably going for some sort of gateway pressure and is actually always playing pretty gateway heavy in the early game. And lurkers, hitting with a good timing, can actually wreck gateway units easily. So let's see how this is going to work out for Miezekotze. I mean, she already invested a lot of resources into this. She hasn't even taken her third base yet. It's not done. So, but is already producing a lot of Hydralisks off of 2 bases. And these pushes can be kind of a coin flippy thing. I mean, it always depends on how the Protoss actually answers. Usually heavy, gas heavy unit pushes on 2 bases are kinda weak because you just only have 4 gases available, and this just means that you can't really reinforce your gas units. You can just build them up once, but once you want to reinforce them somewhere, you just can't because there's just not enough gas left. So either your push with the gas-heavy units kind of works, or you just are screwed because you delayed most of your mineral income for so much. So let's see how this is gonna work or not. And I mean, lurkers actually need a hell of a lot of gas, not only for the Hydras themselves, but then also for the lurker morph. Not the morph, the morph. Ooh, might even that Midastouch actually sees what's headed her way, so a lucky scout here by her. Just moving around, sees the lurkers morphing, sees the Hydralisks, but unfortunately loses the observer, which is actually a critical thing to have right now. Does she have another observer? She doesn't. So this is actually an observer and detection free zone. I don't see any way to hold that base. This is not even a real Colossus. And yeah, with the lurkers around here, there's actually not much that Midas can do. I mean, like I said, she doesn't even have detection. She just cannot engage these lurkers. Miezekotze has to be careful moving around these lurkers here. Just wants to intercept, I feel, reinforcements, and maybe even if these units try to retreat, they will then just move right into lurkers. So Miezekotze just moves in, kills off most of these units for free. Actually, nice defending here by Midastouch, trying to avoid the lurker position and killing off all the rest of the units. And then again, it might come back to haunt her, but it seems as if Miezekotze will be able to take out the third base, and that's of course the most important thing, to get her actually back into the economic game. Because like we said before, she's actually kind of far behind economically, or was actually kind of far behind economically thus far, but by killing the third off, she now has just evened up the supply counts. And ooh, Midas now has to be careful, is now really pushed back into this corner. She can fight against this force, but once the lurkers actually draw near, and now actually even has to move through the lurker forest, another observer just gets killed with the help of that overseer, and without any detection and all of these lurkers around, like I said before, gateway heavy armies just get shredded by lurkers, and the timing worked out pretty well for Miezekotze. 111 supply to 49. Base just got killed, no observer back on the field. All the units are already dying, important buildings are dying as well. Production just gets crippled there, more and more units being streamed across the map. So the more units arrive, the more desperate the situation gets for Midastouch here. And yeah, again, the observer just dies. It's always so difficult to keep these observers alive once the hydras and the lurkers are around. GG, and Miezekotze ties it up 1-1. We're back on Frost for the third game of this best of 5 series. Spawning to the top right hand corner in red, playing Protoss. It's Midastouch. And to the bottom right in purple, playing Zerk, it's Miezekotze, who just managed to surprise and overwhelm her opponent with an early lurker build. Let's see what she's got up her sleeves next. Midas, in the meantime, and that's pretty common on this map, just goes for the Nexus first once more. Frost is just a gigantic map, and if you can get through with an early Nexus, it's this map. I mean, but then again, Miezekotze might actually just metagame her opponent, taking a third base of her own early on. Let's see if she really wants to do that. She is piling up some more minerals, not going into... Okay, there it is. Okay, there's the extractor, so never mind. Just goes for the for the safe thing. I mean, you can't really expect your opponent to go Nexus first. It is a very possible thing to happen, but trusting on it and then just running into like double gate adept can just be so frustrating. So of course that's the safer route. Just going into the typical build, hatch first into gas pool, and then expanding a little bit later after realizing what your opponent is doing. So Overlord's already on the way. First Overlord will actually get the information that it was the wrong choice to send it there, but you never know beforehand, and then the other Overlord will find the base and see that it was indeed a Nexus first, since it's already going to be finished. So first Queen in production. Second Queen in production as well, and again the standard 6 links we see very often out of Miezekotze in the ZVP matchup. So as a Protoss player, if you face Miezekotze, be aware of that. She might attack you with early links. That's very probable. And no units yet for Midas here. Does not even block the gateway. So once more, since Miezekotze now knows where her opponent is, and maybe even didn't reveal the Overlord here, this attack again might actually just surprise her opponent once more. She will probably be able to get through this gap inside the natural base, and there's nothing here to defend. Mothership core not even done, not even one single unit done, and there they are, 6 links. trying to get rid of a few of these probes, getting a few probe kills. Again, I might have actually tried to get that pylon with the fuelings here, but she just tries to get the one up on the ramp, trying to unpower that gateway over here. So Mothership Core is done. Will try to throw it on the photon overcharge, but it's a little bit too late. So at least the first little victory there for Miezekotze already, taking it out. Okay, and now even again forcing Midastouch to just micro her probes maybe away, maybe microing a few other units. Now getting the units down to very low health. Actually doesn't really commit to take down that probe that was over here. Just wants to retreat with the remaining lings, but has already dealt some kind of okay-ish damage if we just have a look. 200 to 75 resources. Not too many workers killed, but yeah, getting a pylon. Oh, sorry for that. Getting a pylon, getting a few workers, and getting the third base up behind it. Good stuff. So everything's quite okay so far. Not really getting any important scouting information because the important tech buildings are only getting produced right now. It's the robotics facility and the Twilight Council, so we actually might see some sort of speed lot Immortal all-in, or maybe just the good old gateway-based unit composition into a third base that Midas has shown us so often. So let's see what it's going to be. Oh, Spire. Actually, ooh, nice little move there by Miezekotze. Going into an early Spire. That's also very daring. Ooh, even catching all of these adepts off guard here. That's also the problematic part. Once speed is out, it's always very risky to move out your adepts, but nicely done by Midas here, not sending them out on their own, elsewise they would have just easily gotten killed, but with the help of the Mothership Core, so she always had the possibility to at least save all her units and not lose them for free. So Miezekotze's surround still well done, well scouted with the help of the Overlord over here, and well intercepted, but also well reacted and planned by Midastouch to not send them across the map that she couldn't even see a thing of. Totally into the dark and maybe getting surrounded, which they actually did, but she had the possibility to get it out. So Spire almost done. Miezekotze already trying to bank up a few resources here in order to get a few mutas out, and these mutas could actually deal quite some damage since okay, finally we have a few stalkers out, so maybe the muta's not really the weapon of choice here, but they just might be able to just scare her opponent a little bit, maybe even make her overproduce units that she won't really need later on. In the meantime, Miezekotze just keeps all the other bases in check, wants to make sure that her opponent won't really be able to attack her. So Resonating Glaives almost done. We have, but unfortunately, yeah, Midas actually had to warp in a few stalkers. I don't really know why she did it. I mean, she has not scouted the Spire, but and she actually went into Resonating Glaives, so you would normally expect her to get more adepts out before the stalkers. Maybe because of all the lings and the heavy ling count she saw, she was expecting her opponent to go into mutas and reacting accordingly. But she still doesn't have any cannons in the middle lines to buy time. She has some things in position, but the Mothership Core is really far out of position. So yeah, these mutas could actually deal some terrible damage to the mineral lines since there's nothing here to protect them. She will probably just try to take down the pylons over here in the Nexus, but once she realizes that she might not be able to get it, yeah, she will just send in a few mutas at the same time, will just wreak havoc over this poor little probe line, unsuspecting there, while at the meantime attacking. So Midas just realizes quickly enough what's going on, pulls away the probes over here, but now Miezekotze of course just flies in, denies mining at the natural base as well. Actually has enough mutas in order to take down these stalkers here, easy peasy, and then just fly across towards the third base as well. So mining just goes down magnificently for Midastouch here, significantly, sorry, for Midas here. I mean, have a look at how denied mining time can actually hurt your opponent, but she has to be careful not to lose too many mutas here to the photon overcharge, but just takes down as many valuable units as she can, just dealing a terrible damage to that stalker count. Now even taking it down to the almost last remaining stalker, only a few left, And actually Miezekotze can just fly in, kill everything, just uses the Zerglings here in order to kill off as many Stalkers as possible, because she knows as well, once the Stalkers are gone, the Mutas will reign supreme. So why not just move in once more if she can. Finally realizes that her army is really big, surrounds all of the gateway units with mostly Lings, while the Stalkers try to tear down the Mutalisks. All of these units get shredded by the Zerglings. Yeah, the good old Zergling Muta attack, and it hit the timing once more. Midastouch down to 47 supply again. GG's out, and Miezekotze takes the lead with a 2-1. Galactic Process is the chosen map for the fourth game of this best of 5. Spawning to the top right hand corner in red, playing Protoss, it's Midastouch. And to the bottom left, in purple, playing Zerg, it's Miezekotze. And she only needs to take one more game in order to seal the deal and close out the series. Midas has to win 2 in a row. Can she do it? Or will Zerg prevail over Protoss power? So actually, interestingly again, Midas just chose this map as her next one. We talked about the problems for Protoss to actually secure even a natural base earlier on. But then again, you also have good possibilities to take a third and a fourth base and then secure them from one position. But then of course there are also these destructible rocks over here, and once Zerg breaks through these, and maybe even these as well, this third base is also very difficult to protect. So, like I said, I mean, Galactic Process, maybe not the best map for Protoss in the map pool. Of course, there were vetoes. Probably Darson got vetoed at some point. So, I don't know why Midas actually chose this map. Maybe the other one was just even more hated by her, so she didn't really want to go with it either. Okay, in the meantime, we just have the little worker war here. But actually, drone wins in a straight-up fight against the probe. If the probe gets microed, then it will generate shields a little bit quicker than the drone can actually regenerate health. So it would then lose, but usually that's just not gonna happen. 6 Zerglingu! 6 Zerglings being produced. And again, that's of course, I mean, if you throw some money at Lings early in the game, it's against Protoss on this map. Hello? Of course you want to do it. I mean, like I said before, this map is just so wide open. It's so difficult to seal everything off. If you will have the possibility to deal some damage with early Lings, then it's on this map, of course. But of course, it also might trigger the opponent this time around to produce some more early units, especially after you early attacked them in the 2 last games. So, Midas also might just have sufficient units at home in order to defend quite well, and she's also planting down a proxy pylon. Maybe wants to move in with either an Oracle, or maybe even later on, it will probably not take down. Yeah, that's always a wasteful thing to do. Just doesn't get it. Just only be barely, but yeah, unfortunately for her, that was just losing 6 Lings for almost nothing here. So this push didn't quite go as expected by Miezekotze, and now we'll see if she's going to realize what's being set up behind her wall. Pylon down. Well, actually the probe retreats, which is kind of interesting. Don't really know. Okay, then maybe she just wanted to have that pylon over here eventually, maybe for later. Miezekotze checking for the 4th base if there is a probe here that might keep you from expanding, and then she's probably, or maybe even some units already, and then she will send out a drone in order to take that 3rd base. Miezekotze just wants to deny the scout, but I think Midas might have barely seen that there's no 3rd base down yet. So Hydralisk then again going up. Seems as if Miezekotze just wants to go into the early lurker build once more, and this could again hit Midastouch pretty hard. So she herself has not taken a robo yet. Ugh, this might come back to haunt her. Okay, seems as if she really wants to go into some sort of DT build, maybe? Don't really know what the Twilight Council is for. Maybe just blink? I mean, warping in 2 Stalkers here will just delay her tech even further, because they cost so much gas here, so she now has to bank up some more gas. At least takes out the Overlord, but not before it actually scouted the Twilight Council. Still, of course, that doesn't really tell Miezekotze what is actually going on. There are a lot of possibilities with the Twilight Council, like DT follow-up, like Adept Glaives, like Blink Stalkers, like Zealot Charge. I mean, she hasn't seen any other tech buildings, so it's quite difficult to know what's actually headed her way. Okay, this time around we have an earlier push there for Midastouch moving across the map. She also has the Mothership Core available, or with the army, so she can just recall if things get ugly. Good thing for her that she will actually scout the Hydralisks with this push, because that's a very important information for her. Just moves across, sees the... Is that actually it? No. Okay, what is that? She actually just hallucinated a few probes for scouting purposes. Okay, sees what's there. Does she really want to move up that ramp? That's really odd. I mean, you don't really want to fight that. But this is just... Okay, good force field usage here. First, but then not having enough force fields. Ooh! Miezekotze even trying to target down the Mothership Core, just barely doesn't get it. Well, okay, no, actually quite didn't get it. So no problem there. And Midas just had to retreat. But yeah, I mean, that push was dead right from the get-go. After scouting with the hallucinated probes, which I've actually never seen before in a game of StarCraft. Actually didn't even know. Did she just press 4 unintentionally, or does it actually spawn 4 probes because they are so cheap with the hallucination? I don't know. Seems like a misclick to me. Whatever. But she scouted it and then still decided to move up that ramp. And like I said, I mean, she must know what's coming. But unfortunately for her, she just went into blink without any detection at all. So these lurkers again will just hit her so hard, I just can't see how she's going to beat it. I mean, she doesn't have any detection yet. She will have detection in like half a minute. That's how long it takes to pump out the Observer with Chrono Boost. But then again, there are so many Overseers and Hydras around as well. Miezekotze will just easily, again, just take down... Well, that's actually a good move here. With the help of the force field, she can just keep them away for a little bit right now, buying herself some time. Mida's even setting up a few cannons in order to have some reliable detection, because she knows that it's going to be tough to keep the observers alive. You need a lot of them, you need to micro them very well, but they're still pretty slow, so it's easier done than said. And Miezekotze can just focus fire or just concentrate and focus on taking down these observers, and then become so infinitely problematic for Protoss to deal with these lurkers. Well, at least we have some photon cannons around. We have one observer that's being saved here. The observer gets spotted by these overseers, but most of the units have almost died before the Hydralisks actually come close. The overseer is still alive. Now finally Midas has the chance to at least engage and see the units. Well, actually to see the units, but not really engage, because the firepower she packs is just not enough in order to take those down. I mean, for every lurker that dies, almost 2 or 3 of her units die. And that's not a cost-efficient trade, let me tell you. So in the meantime, we have more units being ready to cross the map. Miezekotze even preparing to go into a spire right afterwards. So, I mean, even if Midas holds this, she's just lost so much. Well, actually, she still has the 3rd base up, at least. But like I said, I really doubt that she will actually be even able to hold this push. The lurkers, 2 lurkers are still alive. We still have the Hydralisks that just dish out massive damage to everything. Now finally Zerglings rushing in, killing off the remaining probes over here. Okay, units get in. Finally she might be able to take down at least 1 more lurker, but there's still 1 remaining, and Miezekotze still has the better damage output with all these links, and Hydra is finally getting the 2nd base. Actually thinks about retreating for just a second, but also just wants to get into the safety of the lurker. Midas at least saves a lot of her workers here, which is very important for her now to actually actually give her sort of a comeback chance, but with more and more units streaming in, I'm just not seeing it happen. This third base has not been used at all so far, finally getting 1 Immortal out and 2 Observers, so at least against that 1 Observer it would quite suffice, but with all the links keeping the units busy, the Hydras can just deal out the damage, and Midas has to GG out. Miezekotze takes the series with a convincing 3-1.